Good evening, and welcome to Talking Hands, live from the greatest watch show on the planet, SalonQP.
Look at me, not them.
Don't be jealous. My name is Andrew Carrier, and I'm joined tonight by my co-founder of the Prodigal Guide, Eric Drosen. And it's fair to say that we're pretty accustomed to drinking too much and sitting around talking about watches. We're even used to having a camera pointed at us while we do it. We've done a few of these for the site. But normally we have the alchemy of a bit of time and video editing on our side to try and sort of cover up the lack of watch knowledge. Tonight we don't have those. We're live. And so we're running on a combination of blind luck and this rather tasty whiskey. If you put the ludicrous name aside, this is 3D whiskey. It's quite tasty.
The man's in the room, careful.
And I don't know if you know this, it launches on Monday. We're actually drinking, I believe, the first bottle.
And you know what's best about this? You scan this code, you send it in, and you get the holder for the bottle made for you out of 3D printing, no less.
They're making 504 bottles of it.
Fantastic.
We've got the first. You guys had to bring your own. That should have been made clear to you on the invite. So look, let's move on. Let's talk about what we're all here to talk about, which is watches. So last night, Eric and I had the good fortune to be at the VIP party, and in between drinking as much of James Gurney's champagne as we possibly could.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James. We took the time to have a look around, and we each picked 3 watches that we thought were particularly interesting that we'd like to show you tonight. So I think we should just get going. Just one last thing to say before we do. As we're doing this, please do feel free to chip in, to ask questions, to add anything that you might want, and more likely correct us, I would imagine.
Yeah, apart from Uncle Ian, who can't heckle, okay?
No,
he's excluded from that.
So let's get started.
All right, guys. So
what's your first choice?
So the big reveal beneath this little silk scarf, happily branded Davidoff, we have a few treats for you.
Oh.
Ta-da!
Hang on, you've exposed me.
Oh, my apologies. All right, well, we'll do this one piece at a time. So actually, folks, the first piece that I wanted to display for you this evening is something that's got me pretty bent out of shape, forgive the pun. This is the Vacheron Constantin 1972 Prestige, no less.
It is.
Strange looking, right?
Yep.
Now, the interesting piece about this is they made this watch in response to getting an award from the French government, no less, don't you know? Impressive, right? And they came out with something that actually replicates the golden ratio, something that you've, of course, not heard of, not having been particularly educated.
I own a Jaeger-LeCoultre reverse, so I know something about the golden ratio.
Okay, there's no golden ratio there, but we'll get to that later, don't worry. In any case, guys, so this is a lovely, lovely piece. It has, if I'm not mistaken, the thinnest manual wind automatic movement on the market at 1.64 mils, which should impress you and the other geeks in the audience as well. But what I particularly like about this is that it's still fresh. It's still incredibly different. It's still incredibly novel and still very challenging. So you look at the dial as well as something that really nails it for me too. And this little chevron motif, which is discreet, elegant, nice. And if I had to actually pick between this one and another model that they offer, they have a 40-piece limited edition called the boutique version, which is black on white. So you get a really sharp, strong contrast between the two. And I think a snip at 35K. What do you think?
Well, look, I tell you what, it's pretty rare that you see truly great design coming out of the 1970s, I would say. To me, at least, this is not one of those designs. Now, look, don't get me wrong, it's a nice looking piece.
There's more, you're going to add something else, thank you.
It's a nice looking piece, and it comes from one of the few brands, you can count them on one hand, with truly sort of unimpeachable pedigree and history, etc.
We agree.
But for me, it's just not that special. I think you've got, so if you've got a Patek Philippe Calatrava here you've got maybe the line between simple and elegant, the tipping point into sort of dull and slightly forgettable. I think your watch is just the other side, just the wrong side of it.
Yeah, I think we're going to be asking the audience about that later, okay? But we'll put that on hold.
Well, let's ask the audience. Who's with Eric, who's with me?
Yeah, who votes for the Vacheron Constantin?
Well, actually, no, before we do, let me show them what I've brought to the party.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have something
Because I've got
else?
something truly special.
Well, why don't you show us then?
Right. So the first watch I wanted to show you guys was this. This is the Zenith Striking 10th Lightweight Edition. Now, of course, the standard El Primero is well known to all watch fans, right? I mean, this is the arguably the first automatic chronograph from 1969.
If you're wrong, somebody will correct us. We're in the right place.
No doubt. And the movement itself is interesting, not least because it was built into Zenith's own watches, but also because it powered the Rolex Daytona for the best part of 20 years. Right?
We agree, and happy we were.
So it's already steeped in history and pedigree. But with the regular striking 10th, Zenith added, I think, a wonderful complication, which is the ability to measure 1/10 of a second, right? So you can, I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, no, it's tough to see, but the seconds hand, I've just started the chrono movement, the seconds hand is now going around measuring 1/10 of a second.
This is important for the race to the bathroom, right?
Indeed.
Okay, good.
Or to the wine cellar.
Very important.
So you've already got an interesting watch, and then with this is a limited edition, I think it's limited to 100 pieces. 100 pieces, thank you. They've gone to work on making it as light as they possibly could. They've done all sorts of things. But this watch is only 40 grams. Now, to have a feel, just to put that in perspective, I mean, you've probably bought cocaine in those sorts of quantities, right?
I don't deal in G's, I deal in keys. But anyway, okay, yes, go ahead.
I mean, it's astonishing what they've managed to do, right?
Yeah,
so they've completely reworked the movement. It's titanium and silicon. The case, as you can see, is carbon fiber. And the inner...
Really?
The inner structure is aluminium, and they've sort of hollowed out the lugs and the effect.
This reminds a little bit of Linda Verdelin, no?
It does, yeah. Linda Verdelin did a similar thing with their Spider Speed. So I love it because it's sort of the best of old and new in my mind, right? You've got all the history and the pedigree of the El Primero chrono. You've got the design cues like the black, grey, and blue subdials,
yeah. But
they're brought bang up to date, right? With all this light technology. I think it's stunning. I think it's fantastic.
So I think maybe folk can probably guess what I'm about to say, but I find it quite overblown. I think the fact that you picked up on the color of these subdials, for instance, well, I can't see those subdials anymore, and part of the reason I can't see them anymore is because there's so much else going on. This whole skeletonized effect and this idea of digging out, almost eviscerating a watch is something that I just fail to understand. So if you have the beauty of an El Primero movement, which I have had in an old Ebel of mine, 1911 chrono, and part of the pleasure of that for me was knowing it was inside. I didn't have to know everything that was going on in the inside and outside of the watch. So if you asked me for something, I just would have liked it to be a little bit quieter, a little bit calmer, a little more subdued. Less show. Stop tearing us apart.
I think you're out of your mind. I think that's stunning.
Okay, can I ask
the audience? Who's with me? Who's with Eric on the first round? Who's with me first?
Listen, guys, if you want to get out of this room alive, the next vote is for me.
Who's with Eric?
Who's with me? Yeah. Ta-da!
Two Brutus. My wife just voted with you.
I love it.
My wife is in the audience. She just voted with you.
Well, we all know what happens when we get home. But anyway.
Let's move on.
So let's move on. I think it's a very good idea. So I have actually a little surprise, and it's a brace of watches, guys. We're not talking one, but we are talking two little honeys. Nobody was expecting these, but look at this. So this from a brand I think that you and I came into contact not too long ago, but that impressed us straight out of the box. So if you remember, we went through the Zurich Weltzeits. We had the world timer that they made, and we also went through the Nomos. Yeah, keep pouring. That's good. And also the Nomos Dunkel Automat, I think.
Our friend Timothy Barber, just before we started, came on stage and whispered in my ear, "You're supposed to mix it with water. It's very strong." He's right. It's lovely. It's very strong.
No, we can't see that anymore, but it's okay.
Yeah. No, we love Nomos. Great.
All right. Okay, so Nomos, great stuff. But look, here's the point, guys. Nomos have really kicked it up into the high end. So if they offered value down at the, say, I think it was something between 2 to 4, something like this range, they kicked this up to, we're operating in the 12 to 14,000 pound range now, with the Lambda, which is this piece here, and we've got the interestingly named Lux. And this with a gorgeous little baby blue. So I think the real work goes on here. And I think hopefully for the watch nerds in the audience, you'll see this is really what you're paying for. So I think Tim actually, bless him, wrote a stellar piece on the guide talking about why these movements are special. And you and I, being very ignorant when it comes to watch movements, will leave it and park it there. But for me, one of the things that really brought this together was finally the somewhat brittle design of Nomos that I've criticized somewhat in the past, is particularly with the World Timer, I think comes together really beautifully in these pieces. So you're talking high-end movements. You're talking an almost stretched elegance. There's something really tight with it. And my favorite being particularly this land. I mean, look at that. 84-hour power reserve, elegant, pared back. Bottom line is they are ready to punch above their weight. They have arrived, and they are high-end. And more importantly, for all the couples in the audience, these are the him and her uni-brand offering.
Honey, don't get any
Is that
ideas.
good?
So look, I love Nomos, and I love Nomos' design. I think they've got a beautiful, simple aesthetic. Very, very impressed with Nomos brand, always have been. I guess just two things to say. First of all, you've cheated, because you bought 2 watches, so you should be disqualified this round straight off the back.
I'll leave now.
But I guess, look, they're lovely. My only concern is this brings Nomos into a whole new price bracket, right? This is a whole new, and I'm
It's
not
multiples,
sure,
3-4 times.
I'm not sure if you can stretch the Nomos brand that far. And the thing that I have always loved about Nomos is what incredible value they represent. And you know, once you get into this sort of price range, you're up against all sorts of things.
Like
right?
Alanzona?
Yeah, all sorts of things. So it makes
He
that,
doesn't know who I'm talking about.
it makes that a little bit more complicated.
But can I say something? You don't think that you can offer value at the higher end?
I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying it becomes a lot harder. There are a lot more things to take into consideration. It's a slam dunk, you know, at the lower price range, and it'd be very interesting to see what happens. But
Okay. So we'll judge on its own merits.
Indeed. Now,
Are you going to whip something out?
I'm going to whip something.
Not that, by the way.
No, we'll do the watches.
Okay, that's good.
So, I've just criticized Nomos for being a little bit too pricey. Now, I would like to show you a watch, which I think costs more than our two cars put together. This,
By the way, the cars that we don't currently have because they're both in the garage, right?
these things happen. This is, now let me see if I can pronounce this correctly. Uhrwerk?
Yeah, Schatzi, that's good.
Uhrwerk UR210. I just think, so, you know, if you looked at the Zenith that I was just talking about and then said to yourself, oh, well, you know, all they've done is change the materials, that's not real innovation, I would say, first of all, you're wrong. But second, I mean, look at this, right?
I can't miss it.
This looks like nothing else, right? This is,
Yeah, keep going. Okay, it's all right. Okay, you'll find the words
Well, no,
eventually.
It doesn't even, first of all, I'm struggling to even call it a watch. It's like a micro machine. That's what it sort of feels like, right? And it doesn't even bother with things like a conventional hour hand or, no. You've got these...
Tell me, how the hell does it work? I mean, can you even read the time, by the way?
Of course you can read the
We'll
time.
get to that later.
Of
That's
course
not
you can
important.
read the time. It's coming up to 7:10, right?
Thanks to the other watches that we have on the table, yes, we
No.
can do that.
So I'm sure most of you guys have seen this, but you've got these 3 barrels here that rotate, and the number that you can see in the frame here is the hour, and then down below here you've got the minute indicator. So, you know, they've taken the conventional watch design and just reinvented it completely. But they've done it in a way that I think still looks fantastic. It's easy to throw away the old and do something new, but not have the results look particularly good. This, I think, looks astonishing. It's awesome. It's inventive. But that's not why I chose it.
Oh, wow.
I chose it because it has this fantastic complication. I think it's, again, please do correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the only mechanical watch that does this. It measures the efficiency of the winding mechanism at any one time. So it's probably going to be hard to see on the camera, but
it's
up
there,
here in
right?
the top
Yeah.
left-hand corner,
Little green to red gauge.
you've got a sort of green to red gauge, which shows you, based on the last 2 hours of you wearing it, how efficient the winding is going. Right? So if I wore it, it'd be in the red. If you wore it, it'd be in the green. Right? And if God forbid you need to make an adjustment, you flip it over, and here on the back you've got the tricky to see.
Tough guys.
Go
Sorry about
downstairs and have a closer look at it after the show. You can make your adjustments here. Now I just think that is fantastic.
So you mentioned a key word, I think, which, Jesus, it's heavy. No wonder it needs a crown, as large as my thumb, but anyway. So I think here's where I come out. You mentioned efficiency. I'm not sure that you can handle day-to-day life, let alone a watch telling you how efficient you are or are not being, okay? So you might want to think about that for a second.
It's the cleverness behind that.
Yes, it's a radical
it looks awesome at the same time.
Look, okay, so it challenges, it's a radical departure from an engineering perspective. I take my hat off, I take my boots off, my pants off, it's fantastic. It's good stuff.
There are children in the audience.
Okay, no, I Tim? Oh, no, anyway. So here's my issue with it. It complicates. In the same way that I showed you a Vacheron Constantin 1972 Prestige, is because it's simple. You don't have to complicate the thing to be fascinated by it. And this is something that, quite frankly, we see an awful lot of going around SalonQP for the moment, is the only way to innovate is to complicate. I think that's crap. Simplify. Show me that you can do that well, and then I'll be impressed. In the meantime, if you want to talk about sitting back in first class, taking it easy, ignoring turbines that are inside the piece.
It's got a turbine.
Yeah, it's got a turbine. I rest my case. So, now look, you want to travel?
Awesome. The watch is awesome.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you very much for that, and I appreciate it. Noted. Now, can I give you my pick? And it's something that you folks will notice gels quite nicely with the piece that I'm actually wearing for the moment. This is my final offering of the soiree. Sorry, you can actually move this.
Before you do that,
no?
I'd like to take a vote on the last round.
Christ. Okay,
who's
guys.
Who's with me? Who's with me?
Who votes for the OVAC? And who votes for the counter proposition?
Which was?
Which was let the turbines on the outside of the airplane travel first class and to be efficient sleep. But anyway, so this is my final offering. Okay, we don't necessarily say the best because apparently we're going to get thrown out of SalonQP if we rank any of these pieces. I'd like to present you guys with the Jaeger-LeCoultre, not the Jaeger-LeCoultre, but the Jaeger-LeCoultre.
Good pronunciation.
Duo face, ultra thin.
Yeah.
Okay, so watch for all season, watch for all moods. The fact that we talk about changing bracelets during the day is a constant discussion, right? Everybody wants something that's going to reflect where they are, when they're at it, and how they feel. This piece does it all for you. It's all contained in one body. This I love. So while we're looking at a number of different complications, and by the way, I actually can't even count the number of complications you've showed me tonight, what I like about this puppy is, in essence, it's a mood complication. Feel good, feel light, feel dark, feel sober. You've got the answer with you in this piece. Mm-hmm. And all for the bargain price of $6,750. Not the, sorry, what was it? 90-something thousand of the last piece?
How? Just a shade over 90 grand.
Sorry, so 92,000 for the, 6,750, night and day, up or down, you get this. And once again, paring back. This is not about complicating, it's not about eviscerating, it's not about ripping back the skin, it's about simply offering people the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. Like Jay-Z and R. Kelly, but different. He didn't get that, he doesn't like R&B or that kind of music. It's
God, it pains me to say this, particularly in public, but I agree with you. It's a lovely piece.
Do you want to touch?
I do want to touch. It is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful piece. I mean, the Reverso's a classic, right? It's one of my favorites, and I think most people who are into watches have it on their list somewhere and respect it. And I think, in this industry, words like timeless and iconic get thrown around a lot, right? This is one of the few watches that actually lives up to those adjectives properly. So,
amen.
Absolute due respect to the Reverso. But, all right, there is a but. There is a but. So if you know a little bit about how this watch came about, a little bit about the history, and I'm sure most of the audience does,
yes,
you'll know that the reason that you can flip the face over on the Reverso is to protect the face from polo mallets, right?
Yes.
Not to pander to your bipolar disorder. And that, as a purist, that's my only problem with this watch.
Really?
I just think it's just deviated slightly from the essence of what the Reverso is all about. This is stunning, and I guess that's the last thing I'd say about this. I think Jaeger-LeCoultre have a problem on their hands because they released the tribute to 1931, the ultra-thin Reverso that you're wearing, which I think is the Reverso in perfect form. I don't see how you can better it, and they haven't bettered it with this.
Okay, so one thing to be clear about. So the tribute to 1931 had sword hands. This is syringe hands.
Yes,
this is the Fagliano.
Fagliano.
So is it the Fagliano that you like, or is it the tribute?
You're off piece. We're focusing on this. Okay.
All right, so what are you going to come back at me with?
Well,
because I think that's pretty impressive, no?
It is, no. But what they've done is they've taken a design that I think was perfect 80 years ago, and they've tweaked it and they've tried to do something new with it, and that's absolutely fine, but you're never going to get anywhere good if you've already done such a great
Nailed it
job
with
to start off with. So my last choice is completely at the other end of the spectrum. It literally throws the conventions of watch design out the window.
Bring it on.
Right? We're not tweaking here, we're starting from scratch.
Come on, let's do it.
Here we go. I give you, as my last choice of the evening, the Renaissance Type 3.
Oh my goodness,
Right?
they're even clapping.
Yeah. So those of you who were here 2 years ago, I think, will have seen Benoit, who's a fellow waffle-eating Belgian
Vive la
compatriot of yours,
Belgique.
indeed,
That's all I can say.
introduce the brand and his first watch, the Series 1,
I remember.
2 years ago. And I was blown away then. Right? The first version of this was amazing because it doesn't have any hands at all. It all works on the basis of dials.
Actually, how the hell does it work?
Well,
Should I? Oh,
if
sorry.
only you were here.
Oh, I'm going off script there. Yeah, no.
No, and
I really
I'm
did.
peering down at my No, but the original design is all about the rotating discs, right?
Okay, thank you.
So what they did with the Type
But
3...
he knows what he's talking about. It's okay.
So what they did with the Type 3, they did three things, I think,
Okay.
that are impressive. So first of all, they took... what he's done is he's sort of melded the sapphire and the discs by putting oil between the two, refractive oil that gives the optical illusion that the sapphire and the face are sort of one piece when they're not. Okay, and the movement is below it, and there's no contact between the two. It works on the basis of magnets, as Noodle said.
Yes, because he knows what he's talking about.
And the third thing is there's no crown. There's no crown at all.
Yeah, actually, I didn't notice that
No,
before.
right?
So how do you adjust
It's
it?
pretty special. So what you do is you get to pretend to be a bit of a safe cracker. I'm struggling to...
Do you want any help?
Sorry, guys. Could you... You use it, use the back of the watch to make all of your adjustments.
You know, Benoit's so intelligent, you can't even get the strap undone. We're going to have to do without.
Well,
But
you have to take my
so
word
what?
for it. It's all adjusted by moving the back here.
Okay.
So
So what are we talking about with this piece? Why is this doing it for you? Why is this the...
It's doing it for me, I guess, a bit like the Uhrwerk. It's being courageous and ballsy and just bringing genuine invention, right?
Okay.
This industry is all too short of real invention.
No, they start
right?
resorting to tricks like that. But
So this is something genuinely new. You haven't seen this before. It's
Great.
clever, it's ballsy, it's courageous. And he's managed to do it in a form factor that looks good, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to create new stuff that actually aesthetically doesn't look that great. But the final thing about it is, and I think you'll like this, it's cheap. It's cheap. It's 23,000 euros.
I have to go to the bathroom.
It's for
Yeah?
a watch that you will
Okay,
never see on anyone else, and which is bringing something completely new and different to the table.
All right, so look, this is going to sound a little bit dull for the audience that's gathered here before us, that's looking for, fireworks.
Well, they've got
and-
used to it over the last 15 minutes or
Well,
so.
they've fallen asleep actually, most of them grown beards. But anyway, but I actually agree. I think that what you've pointed out is right, and it should be acknowledged as such. This is genuinely special. It's genuinely
awesome, right?
innovative.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely fine. Now, apart from the fact that it looks somewhat like the dashboard of a '60s Italian car, it's rocking my world, and it's good.
You, of all people, should appreciate quirky Belgian design.
Yes, indeed. After a few left blondes, we appreciate almost anything, even you. But I think my point about this is I just don't want to think about come maintenance time, come how you actually take care of the piece, because we forget about this. All the stuff that we've gone through, there is a question of how long and how much you're actually going to be paying to make sure the piece is running
I
good.
mean, I think he builds it with an ETA movement, obviously heavily modified. Well, I don't know, he's here. We'll go downstairs and ask him.
All right, well, look, listen, so we can end, I think, or wrap up in a place of agreement?
No, I want to vote first. Last round.
Okay, sorry. So, guys, who thinks this is a genuinely special piece?
Versus your reverso.
Ah.
Who won that round?
I'm sorry. Okay, guys, so here's what you've got. We're going to be clear.
Who's with me?
And who's with the reverso? Oh, You're not allowed to vote. You work for Gégé Lecoutre. Just you. Lovely. Well, listen, look, I think this actually brings us to the end of a somewhat successful Talking Hands. We've managed to live through the voting process, the heckling from Uncle Ian about Rolexes and things like that. And I hope none of you have kind of grown beards or grown too bored in the process. I know for us it was something new, something fun. Maybe we'll do it again if the watch brands will ever allow SalonQP to have this kind of thing take place. In the meantime, it was a pleasure having you here tonight. It was a pleasure speaking with you. It was a pleasure seeing these beauties because I think all of them deserve recognition. And until the next time, wear your watches in good health, folks.
Good night.
Cheers. Here's to you.